Picture a world where the ground beneath your feet isn't actually solid. Imagine a gate to another dimension exists, not in some top-secret government lab, but right smack in the middle of a busy city. We've all seen Stranger Things. We've seen kids getting dragged into the upside down by a faceless monster. We watch it for the thrill, because we know it's fiction. But what if I told you that in a suburb of New Delhi, India, a real-life upside down actually existed? A place where 19 children didn't just die, they vanished into thin air. This is the story of House D-5, Nithari. And honestly, this story is so twisted, it makes the Hawkins lab look like a daycare center. In Hawkins, the lab was hidden by a forest. In Nithari, the horror was hiding behind a simple brick wall. On one side, you had House D-5, a massive, upscale mansion owned by a wealthy businessman named Moninder Singh Pandher. On the other side of that wall lay a slum, a poverty-stricken neighborhood where kids played in the dirt. These two worlds were separated by nothing but a narrow alley and a deep, dark drainage ditch. To the local kids, House D-5 was a mystery. They called it the Big House. But pretty soon, it became something else entirely. It became a black hole. It all started back in 2005. One kid went missing, then another, then a teenage girl. Now, anywhere else in the world, this would trigger a massive manhunt, Amber Alerts, the works. But just like the cops in Hawkins initially blew off the disappearance of Will Byers, the local police in Nithari did something way worse. They laughed in the parents' faces. When mothers ran to the station crying that their daughters hadn't come home, the officers gave them the same tired line, telling them she probably ran off with a boyfriend and to go home. But the parents knew better. They could feel a dark cloud hanging over the village. They started noticing a guy standing at the gate of House D-5. His name was Surinder Kohli, the live-in servant. This guy was a demogorgon in human skin. He'd lure kids in with sweets, toys, or the promise of a job. And the second a child stepped through those gates, that portal slammed shut forever. For 2 years, the village of Nithari was living a waking nightmare. Neighbors claimed they heard muffled screams. They noticed a strange, sickly sweet smell of rot wafting from the backyard of D-5. But anytime they tried to take a look, they were chased off. Then came December 2006. The gate was finally kicked open. A group of villagers, desperate and furious, forced the police to investigate the dry, clogged drain behind the mansion. When the shovels hit the mud, everything stopped. They weren't digging up dirt, they were digging up skulls, small skulls, tiny rib cages, plastic bags filled with leftovers. The police recovered over 40 bags of human remains. The upside down wasn't another dimension, it was the sewer system of House D-5. Now here's where the story takes a turn that the media whispered about, but the courts couldn't nail down. Was Surinder Kohli just a lone wolf psychopath, or was D-5 a real-life version of the Hawkins lab? There were deep theories that the owner, Pandher, and his servant, Kohli, weren't just killing for kicks. Rumors spread like wildfire about an international organ trafficking ring. Think about it. Why were the bodies dissected with such surgical precision? Why were internal organs missing in so many cases? In Stranger Things, the government used kids to explore a new frontier. In the Nithari conspiracy, people believed the elite were using these poor kids for spare parts. The theory is that rich clients would visit the house at night to pick up what they paid for. The kids weren't just victims, they were harvested. When Surinder Kohli got arrested, he didn't lawyer up and stay quiet. He sang like a bird. And what he said was more terrifying than any mind flare. He admitted to cannibalism. He told investigators that he didn't just kill the children, he cooked them. He said he wanted to keep them inside him forever. He described these acts with zero emotion, calm as a cucumber, like a scientist breaking down a lab experiment. This wasn't just murder, this was total consumption. In Hawkins, the townspeople didn't know their government was running tests on their kids. They were kept in the dark by men in suits. In Nithari, the men in suits weren't secret agents, they were the local cops and the wealthy elite. This is where the story shifts from a slasher flick to a deep state conspiracy. You have to ask yourself, how does a guy kill nearly 20 kids in a house just 100 yards from a busy street? How does screams go unheard? The answer is simple and terrifying. Money talks. Monitor Singh Pandar wasn't just some businessman. He was plugged in. He threw lavish parties. He had friends in high places. The locals believed House D-5 was a no-go zone for the cops. Every time a parent tried to file a missing person report, a phone call would be made and the file would vanish. It was like these kids were being erased from reality, just like the test subjects in the Hawkins lab files. Now, let's get into the part that the international true crime community obsesses over. When the bodies were found, investigators noticed something off. The cuts on the remains weren't messy. They weren't the work of a frantic madman. They were surgical. Independent journalists started asking if a simple, uneducated servant like Coley could really pull off such precise dissections. The theory grew that House D-5 was basically a warehouse for humans. The logic here is that these kids were fuel for a massive underground organ market. There are whispers of blacked-out SUVs pulling up to the house in the dead of night, surgeons, protected by the shadow of the law, slipping into the basement. The kids were the batteries. Their organs were the power source for wealthy people who wanted to live forever. It's the darkest reality of our world, where the poor are literally consumed by the rich. When those skulls were pulled from the drain, the silence finally broke. The villagers didn't wait for a judge and jury. They went full mob mode. Thousands of people surrounded House D-5. They didn't just want justice, they wanted to burn that house to the ground. They threw stones, fought the police, and screamed for the heads of Pandar and Coley. The same police who had protected the house for years were now forced to protect themselves from the very people they were supposed to serve. It was a war zone. The monster had been exposed, and the town was ready to take it out. Surinder Kohli is often painted as this brainwashed servant. Psych profiles describe him as having a split personality. One minute, he's a loyal cook, the next, a predator. But conspiracy theorists think he was just the puppet. In Stranger Things, the Mind Flayer uses people to do its dirty work. People believe Coley was the fall guy. He was the one who took the fall, the one who confessed to everything, even stuff that seemed physically impossible for one man to do alone, just to protect the real monsters at the top of the food chain. Today, House D-5 stands like a rotting skeleton. Nobody goes near it. Locals say if you stand near that drainage ditch at 3 a.m., the devil's hour, you can still hear the faint sound of a child's laughter that suddenly turns into a sob. The house is a monument to a crime that was never fully solved. Some say the gate is still open, that the souls of those kids are trapped in an upside down of legal loopholes and forgotten memories. As the investigation moved from the backyard into the house itself, police found something that turned this case from a whodunit into a psychological horror story. Imagine finding a diary where instead of daily thoughts, you find recipes and checklists of human lives. Rumors leaked that Coley kept a mental and maybe even physical tally of his victims. He didn't see them as kids, he saw them as objects. To an American audience, this screams Jeffrey Dahmer, but Coley's methods were even primal. He confessed to playing with the remains, talking to them like they were still alive. He was building his own twisted fantasy world inside that kitchen, where he was the king and the children were his subjects. Coley's hunting method was terrifyingly efficient. He'd stand at the gate, perfectly still, scanning the slums. He knew which kids were invisible, the ones whose parents were working 2 jobs and might not notice they were gone immediately. He'd lure them with a simple red ball or a piece of candy. It took exactly 7 minutes from the moment a child walked through that gate to the moment their life ended. No struggle, no noise. He was so good at erasing people, he was basically a ghost in daylight.
Here is the twist that will keep you up at night. There is a persistent theory that House D-5 was a location for snuff films. In the dark corners of the web, people believe these murders were recorded for high-paying clients in Europe and the US. Why else would a wealthy guy like Pandher keep a servant like Coley around, despite the smell of rotting flesh? Why were expensive cameras found in the house? The theory suggests that while Coley was the executioner, Pandher was the producer. They weren't just killing for blood, they were selling the experience of death. It plays right into the idea of a shadow government, that the people in power aren't just corrupt, they're monsters who enjoy watching the innocent suffer. In every horror movie, there's a moment where justice fails. In Stranger Things, the lab covers up its crimes with fake stories about gas leaks. In Nithari, the injustice was real. While Surinder Kohli was sentenced to death multiple times, the master of the house, Moninder Singh Pandher, managed to get his death sentences overturned. He literally walked out of prison while the parents of the dead children watched in horror. It's unbelievable. How does a man whose house was used to butcher 19 children walk free? This is the ultimate upside-down logic. In our world, the monster goes to a cage, but the man who let it happen walks back into the sunlight. The story ends on a chilling note. Nithari isn't just a place in India. Nithari is anywhere the cops are corrupt, the rich are protected, and kids are treated like they don't matter. Next time you walk past a wealthy mansion with high walls and a silent gatekeeper, don't just keep walking, look closer. Because the gate to the upside down doesn't need a sci-fi lab. It only needs a basement, a drain, and a monster hiding in plain sight. In movies, we usually get closure. The monster dies, the portal closes. But in the true story of Nithari, that portal never really shut. It just became a permanent scar. If you go to Noida Sector 31 today, House D-5 is still there, rotting away. The walls are black, windows shattered, and the garden is overgrown with weeds. It's the Amityville horror of the East. Taxi drivers won't stop there after dark. Slum dwellers swear they see a small shadow running along the top of the wall, vanishing when you look straight at it. They call them the left behind, the souls who never got a proper burial because their remains were too small to identify. That's the most heartbreaking part. When the police found those 40 bags, they realized they couldn't tell who was who. The monster didn't just take lives, he stole identities. Parents were handed bags of bones and told that this might be their son or maybe their daughter. Some parents refused to take them, believing their kids were still alive in some secret underground cell. To this day, there are rooms in that village kept exactly as they were in 2005, waiting for children who are never coming home. Surinder Kohli, the Indian demogorgon, has been on death row for nearly 2 decades. In any other story, he'd be gone by now. But in the twisted reality of the legal system, he's still breathing. Some say he knows too much. They say he has a black book of names, wealthy clients, politicians, cops who visited House D-5 for dark services. The theory is, as long as Kohli breathes, the people at the top are safe. He's a vault of secrets. If he hangs, the vault cracks open. It's exactly how the system works in the movies, protecting the monster to protect the secret. Here is the final thought to leave you with. After Nithari, reports started popping up from other parts of the world. Missing kids, surgical remains, wealthy homeowners disappearing. You have to ask, was Nithari a one-time thing or was it a blueprint? Was House D-5 just one gate? Are there other D-5s in London, New York, or LA? The method of using slums as a grocery store for the elite is terrifyingly efficient. While we watch 11 fight monsters on TV, the real-life 11 might be trapped in a basement 3 blocks from your house, and you'd never know. The story of Nithari ends with a cold shiver. Pandher is a free man living in the shadows. Kohli sits in a cell, and House D-5 waits for its next master. Remember, the upside down isn't under the ground. It's behind the gates of the houses we're too afraid to look at. Sleep well, folks, if you can, folks.